Thank you, everyone, for showing up here. As you know, this is our 3rd anniversary, and all you guys make this possible. And I want to thank each and every one of you. A lot of people have helped get us here, and it's awesome. Today we have Eli Knight. You see John Rowe, thank him for setting all of this up. Good job. So, we're going to start with some no-gi stuff, obviously. Everybody's dressed for that. And then we'll do about 5 minutes of that. And then, so, Eli.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So John's preoccupied.
John's preoccupied, so we're going to use. Where's our other dummy? Come on.
Yes. Hey. All right.
Mr. Uke himself.
Okay. So, hi guys. My name's Eli. I'm going to show some jiu-jitsu stuff that mostly just works on YouTube today. So we're going to cover some passing stuff, but it's like fun passing. It's not like boring passing, hopefully. And we'll get into maybe some little leg lock stuff too, because it blends well. If you guys have any questions anywhere along the way, even if it's like extremely tangential, I'll try to like redirect it, or I'll try to answer the best I can. If I don't know, I'll probably make something up, but I'll make it sound like really legitimate. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started with this, guys. So let's start if you're on your back here. Good. Okay, so from here, just some general guard passing, like house cleaning things. I don't know anybody's level in here. That's why I like no-gi, because like it doesn't matter, right? So whenever we get here, a couple general things. If I'm here and there we go, Jason doesn't want me to pass. I don't like how it's like 360 right now. Everybody come over this way a little bit.
Bring it in, bring it in.
Because you guys got the front row.
If you're on that side, you're wrong.
If he doesn't want me to pass, then generally what's going to happen here, he'd prefer for me to see the bottom of his feet facing me, a V shape of his legs, right? Those are two big things, and his knees drawing. If I dismantle those things, like at least two of those three things, then I'm probably going to have a better passing opportunity, right? So I want to see his shoelaces. I want to see his legs overextended. I want to see an L shape instead. Almost every kind of passing involves me turning this V shape of his legs into an L shape, if you think about it. My knee cut pass goes L shape, leg drag pass L shape, Toriando L shape, right? So just knowing those little details, now if I can like reverse engineer that, and now I have my defense set up. He knows what he wants me to see, I know what I want to see. So whenever we start talking about the kind of passing we're going to look at today, and I'm going to kind of focus on headquarters. So if you're not familiar with what headquarters is, then that's okay. When we get to this position, I don't want to just step directly in, because I'm going to give him everything that he wants. He's going to set up all the attachments that he wants to set up, how he wants to set them up. So I'm going to take like a little bit of a side step here. I like to typically grab this leg, because as he starts to try to face me and turn into like a side guard, then I don't want that to happen, because he wanted that to happen. I don't want him to get what he wants. So I go here, this way, and then I'm going to see this shape, and I want to step into that there, right? As I do that, I'm monitoring on this leg over here, and then I'm going to find my seat. Finding just your balance in this position is really crucial to headquarters passing, I feel like. Because if you're overextended, he's going to kick me over, right? If I'm like sitting back too far, I'm going to lose my balance backward. So I got to figure out where I personally can find my weight distribution there. And that's going to be a little individualistic, because we're all shaped a little differently, right? So whenever we get here, I'd like for this leg here to be kind of crowded up. It's honestly okay if I'm a little heavier on this side and I'm starting to put my hand on the floor. This is okay. He's going to be fighting me with the hands, and we're going to be playing patty cake for a little while, and that's okay. Whenever we get here, one of the first simple passes, probably the simplest pass from this position, is just float passing or pummel passing. So whenever I get to this position, where I put my hands next will determine kind of that too. And if he's doing a good job of T-Rex arms here, I'll just go over his shoulders, and then I'm going to pummel my foot in, and then I'm going to look to pass. When you go to pass off of here, you can maybe cut straight to mount or to a knee ride. So if I go straight to mount, I'm gonna hike my hips, push his knee clear, and then step right over into mount position, okay? It's really a stupid feeling, pass, if you haven't experienced this, which is really good jiu-jitsu. So when we get here, I go this way, I pommel, and either I hike and go straight to mount, right? Or I hike and go out to my knee right here this way, okay? So let's start with this. You can go both sides if you want to. I don't see any reason to ever train both sides, but if you want to do that, that's cool, it's your choice. And let's work with this one first, and then we'll start to see some other concepts. Any questions so far? All of it? So when we're here, right? I'm gonna try to like make sure his hands aren't being anything too threatening. I'm gonna go over this way here, right above his shoulders. It's okay to plant my hands on the floor. I pummel in, so I'm like ankle to ankle, essentially. My foot is flexed. It's not loose because I'll just slip off. I'm gonna hike my hips up, clear, and slide right into mount, right? Or here, pummel. And as this is coming down, my knee is touching his body so that I can pivot on that. All that's essentially happening in the back is as I'm hiking that foot down, I'm pummeling my foot to kick myself in the butt so that it goes to this knee ride position. Okay? Yes, sir.
You want us to start like in a V shape?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good idea for if you're on bottom and we're playing here like this and you don't want me to pass your guard, right? Don't let me see your shoelaces, right? As soon as I see your shoelaces, I'm gonna pass easy, dude. So show me the bottom of these feet here. There, yeah. This is stage one, right? If I'm this close, you want me to see the bottom of those feet so I can tickle them. No, I'm not gonna tickle you. But like when we get here, like you don't want me to see the tops of these feet when I'm this close, right? It's a different story from back here. Now the seated position like you're doing, this is cool because there's too much distance, right? If I start getting closer, go on your back so I can't like do this stuff. Yes, exactly, right? And bring these feet up like this. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's try it, guys. You guys do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. What do you do?
Break it down.
2, 1.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, good. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're gonna need. But just for fun, we'll do other stuff.
Pardon me, gentlemen.
When we get here, how do I decide what I'm ever gonna do? The thing that we want to get away from, that I feel like people should be constantly trying to get away from, is the illusion of multiple options from one place. Because I don't think, and again, all views and opinions are mine, whatever. I don't think that there's like multiple equal options from a given position. I think there's one best thing you can do. Now, if the position changes, that best thing may not be the best thing anymore. It might still be, but it might not be, right? But if it changes enough, I gotta find a new best thing because it's a new situation, okay? This all sounds like, well, duh, yeah, but I'm getting there. So if I don't have the best thing, I have to take the best thing that I know to do. And that might not be the right thing. So I equate it like this. You can't fit a square peg into a round hole. But if it's like hexagonal or octagonal, you know, you can like jam it in there, right? It'll work. But the problem then is what? I'm using too much force, right? So I'm overexerting myself. So you can make the wrong thing work. It's just depending on how catastrophically wrong it is, it's going to require more energy expenditure, and then you're going to get tired. So that's why we're trying to be like as efficient as possible. So whenever we're trying to dissect what's going to be the most efficient way to get past a guard, or to make a sweep, or to make a takedown, or whatever it is, then I have to kind of like evaluate what is there in that given space. Now I don't have time to do that live, so it's all got to be done in the pre-work and then the post-work, right? So when we get here, and I'm approaching this, I've stepped in, I've gotten to this, some semblance of a headquarter position. Take an inventory of these certain kind of things. Where are the spaces? Where are the wedges of his body right now? There's a wedge by his hip here. There's a wedge behind his knee here. And there's wedges on the outside and inside of his hips, okay? Those are gonna be my passing directions typically. Now, how I fill those spaces will determine my success, right? And what's the mantra in Jiu-Jitsu? It's like you see space, fill space, or you make space, fill space. Some kind of saying like that, right? But it's better if whenever I fill that space, I can manage it. So if you're gonna fill a space, if there's a space that needs to be filled or occupied, and you stick a hinged joint in there, now you're managing the space because the hinge joint can expand and it can contract, okay? So that just like whenever we're going here and I'm pummeling, I'm finding that space between his foot and my butt, that's the space that I'm taking advantage of, and then I'm gonna pummel to my knee cut or whatever. One of the simplest directions from here, if this leg over here, if I don't feel like his leg over here is being very active, then we can just cut back for our knee cut pass, right? But as we cut back to our knee cut pass from here this way, and I've got him kind of forced trying to decide what I'm gonna do, and I feel this knee is starting to slide off this direction a bit, then that's probably a better opportunity for me to cut back to my knee cut pass, right? So we'll combine those two things now. So whenever I cut back to my knee cut pass, how you do it is how you do it, but this is how I like to do it. I'm gonna find my hand near his love handle or the wedge of his hip. I wanna ride my forearm inside his thigh. I'm monitoring more than anything this leg, but this hand is floating because if he's gonna give me problems with frames, I might need this hand to address those, okay? And then I'm pinning here. You need, if it comes all the way through, okay, right? I like to leave it a little floaty right here because it's tightening the space between my foot and my butt to not allow him an exit strategy to get to my back or overextend me. So then we're here, then we just finish out the cut. I'm gonna find my underhook and I'm gonna finish my pass, okay? If you're a little more less experienced with the knee cut pass, I don't think it's a good idea to do this and be done with it, right? You're not gonna get away with that on people who are very active or very, let's say, good, okay? So I don't wanna recline necessarily at the end of it. Whenever I cut through here, I've established my underhook and I'm gonna get this grip on his arm here. I'm gonna walk it here and get it nice and high on his head this way, okay? So, here we are. We're like this, right? And this time now, I can kind of feel that weight distribution, and so now I feel this leg floating a bit, and I'm gonna finish my knee cut out like this, okay? If I land here and I can get this solidified with this wedge in the hip, then I know he's not gonna pummel his knee shield in the way. So now I can find my underhook here, I'm gonna pick up his elbow, and then I'm gonna keep walking him out this direction. Make sure I'm clear of his legs. So let's see how we can combine the efforts of that first pummel float pass thing that we did with this knee cut pass, okay? Any questions? No? All right, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. But that's kind of how I think seminars should be. Like, you should go to a seminar and get like spaghetti against the wall. Like whatever sticks, and you take something away from it and then you go back and train it. On that note, if you guys want, I don't care about pictures, videos, you guys want to live stream the whole thing, I don't care. Like, you do whatever you want to do. Because if it's me, then I would love to be able to do that. A lot of people don't allow that at seminars. But it's unfortunate because like I want to see the stuff and go back because my memory is horrible. So I want to have something to like go back and watch. So if you ever want to do that, that's fine. The other thing, what else? So yeah, I'm going to show kind of a smattering. So I'm not going to spend like, 15, 20 minutes letting you drill something right now. We should get just comfortable enough with the repetition of the technique where you know what it feels like correctly, and then we go back to train it, then you can actually drill it like ad nauseum, right? So when we get here, the idea right now, the reason I show the pummel first and the knee cut is because I need to be able to seamlessly connect my passes and transitions as much as possible. Like, the longer you take to change a direction or correct a mistake or guess wrong and then try to find the right thing to do, the longer he has to respond to me. So I don't want that. So when we get here and I'm like this, I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't find the pummel. I'm gonna immediately try to go back to knee cut then, right? Or maybe the space doesn't exist. If his knee is a little more this direction over here, right? Then maybe that's not the right thing to do, right? Maybe the right thing to do now is to try to like cut through the other direction. I'm not gonna cut across his waist necessarily. That might work, but instead what I'm gonna look to do is I'm gonna try to cut here with my knee this way. So when we get to this position, maybe try to get my pummel, that's not working. I'm gonna bring my knee behind his hamstring, and then I'm gonna come down here, right? A lot of times on this one, I won't be able to pummel seamlessly to get my underhook right away, but if I can go low and feel that I'm below his elbow, then his underhook isn't gonna immediately be that threatening to me. And mostly that's because of how this knee is going between his two legs. Even if he has a full underhook right here, it's hard for him to take really good advantage of it. If I just throw a little like makeshift whizzer on there, then he's probably not gonna have much left. Because this is a great pinning position on his legs. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean I get to stop here and take a long rest, right? I'm still not completely past his legs. I haven't done much to him. So if I want to complete this pass from here, then we'll look at it this way. At some point, I am going to want to try to get my underhook back, and I want to try to get up to his trap here, okay? Now, once I've established that, I want to keep this hand away from me here, and the rest is going to be the job of my legs to finish this pass for now. This foot's not doing anything important, so I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to open his leg up this way. This is so that he doesn't try to figure four on me, right? And like lock my leg down some kind of weird way. Once that leg is stretched out, now I can come back and grab his ankle and push his leg away, okay? So I'm just manually moving these things out of the way. Now I want to start back stepping away from here, okay? And then I'm going to keep him pushed over this direction. If you want to get a cradle, it looks cooler at the end if you do that, okay? It's a nice punctuation mark. And we'll talk too, maybe about the cradle thing, because I've got some really good stuff I stole from some friends of mine. So when we get here, I'm going to try and lean a ton. No, it's not happening. I'm going to cut through, keep my lat low, back here like his forearm below his elbow at first, right? If from here, he can probably turtle and give me his back if he wants to, and that's okay, but we're not going to plan on that today. I'm just going to plan on finishing out this pass. So now from here, I'm going to pummel, get my underhook. Top track is okay, bottom track I think is better, right? I'm going to get this hand out of the way. My foot goes behind his Achilles tendon and stretches his leg out this way. Sorry, I spit on it. Okay. When we get here, this way. It wasn't bad though. It was just like a little bitty. So when we get here, now I'm gonna push this ankle away from me this way. So I see his toes. I'm gonna walk back here and then try to cradle him up this way now. Okay? Questions? A few steps to this one. But the cool thing about it is that he's kind of stuck here while I'm doing those steps. Right? If you feel really off balance, let me know and we'll try to fix it. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. The balance, I guess the weight distribution, whenever we go in here, we're pinning the legs. So if we get like here, yes, I'm like, the farther my knee is from his body when we get here, the more susceptible I'm gonna be to like a wing sweep whenever he like starts to kick me over this way, right? So don't let that happen because you'll feel really dumb. So get your knee close to his body, right? That's one kind of thing where I've got my weight centered over his legs, gonna make it a little harder. Once I get my underhook and I pin his hand, things become even harder then if he wants to wing sweep me because the way that I'm controlling his shoulder carriage, right? Because he has to kind of lead the way with his shoulders and then his hips kind of follow on that sweep a lot of the time. So this should kind of mitigate that prospect. Then I like to make sure he's not figure fouring his legs. That's why I like to go with his bottom leg first to keep that open, right? It may not always quite work for me. If I feel like I'm in danger and I don't feel, maybe I feel here and like that's hooking me and I'm not happy about it, then there's a couple ways that we can address it. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna address with this position, it's just like messed my whole order up, but I think it needs to be addressed. So when we get here, what's he gonna do, right? He knows that like if he turtles, he's gonna expose his back, but for him to re-guard or for him to do anything like really positive from this position, he has to create some distance between his knee and his chest, which is good because like if he does that, and I feel like he's very strong pushing that space open between his knee and his chest, so he pushes like this here, well, he just created a new space and I'm going to fill that new space here with my knee. Okay? So now I'm just kind of like dropped on his knee here. From there now, I can look for the mount or I can look for the back. Okay? So let's look for the back because it's cooler. When we get here, I'm gonna start walking my hand under his arm and exposing that top leg, right? You guys probably see where I'm going now. So now, because this leg is opening this top one, the space underneath is exposed, right? If you need a training wheels version of this one, that's fine. Just go all the way to here, right? If not, catch it on the way, right? So as we go here and I start to roll, I'll catch that, right? Now, as we start to go here this way, I like to try to control the hip on the way over because I don't want him to over rotate and get away from this like truck position or like shut down my back tape. So now as we're pushing him across this way here, I'm almost always gonna see this. So I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna catch it. Okay? So now that I've pushed his foot to the floor, I've got him kind of twisted up like this. Now we can finalize our back take off of it, okay? If you're just not a nice person, you can go for the twister here. Right, right. If you just want to finish to the back take, I'm going to keep this grip here. I'm going to keep my bottom hook, and I'm going to kind of shrimp away to drop him on that hook. Now the space under his neck is open, and I can feel it. So now I've got the back, okay? So what just happened? We did the same pass we just did, right here. I came across, and now he's pushing away, opening that space. So I'm just dropping it. I'm pinching his leg between my two legs here, okay? From here now, I'm gonna tuck, open the space, and then as I go to roll, here, this way. If his foot were closer, I might grab it, but like I need something on this side, because what I don't want to have happen is this. Right, that was gonna be really dumb. I just did all that work, right? I was right there at the finish line and then just screwed it all up. So we go here, pushing away, turn in, fill that space. As I come out, I open the two legs here, sit, capture on the way, right? Inside foot is hooking behind his knee. I'm stepping here on the back of his calf or Achilles tendon. I've got control of his hip here. As I push and start to expose up top, I'm gonna grab that hand here. I'm gonna keep my bottom hook inserted, pedal away here, this way, and then punch through. Okay? Guys got it? Questions, concerns, comments? Sir? No? Okay. Well, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Got it. And then you go and try to do it. It's like, nope, you don't got it. Okay. There's so many things in my life that are like that. So when we get here and I cut across, boom, this way. When I turn back and face him, I'm gonna throw this knee, boom, hit him in the chest with it, right? That should probably knock him out, the fight's over, but if it doesn't, then I wanna get here, okay? So I'm completely perpendicular right now on my first step once I bring that knee inside. So, and I'm straddling his top leg, This roll, I think the most common, I don't like to use this word, but mistake that people make on this roll is they make this leg, my top leg, they make it do too much work. It doesn't have a very important job, right? The more important job is this leg. So when I turn here and I'm facing his legs like this, I should get a visual on that popliteal fossa, is what that's called, right behind his knee. And I want to put I gotta have some anatomy person to like validate me whenever I need these things. So when we get here, I put my Achilles tendon in the back of that knee. Now, if I just try to roll right now, has this ever happened to you doing it? Yes, right. I'm too high on his waist. So take your hands and walk your hands down like you're gonna grab his foot. And if you want to grab his foot, grab his foot. Now we're done. We're good right here, right? So now, if I just need to push him away, I can use the second foot to do it, here or here. As I go to push him away, I almost am guaranteed that arm is gonna be bent up like that. So I'm just gonna throw a little uppercut and get this reverse do-si-do grip, right? I'm gonna turn that to my baseball bat grip. All right? Now, if I try to finish out right now and throw this over, he's gonna spin away from me. Right? So I'm gonna shrimp out one more time, because right now my center line, if you picture my center line, is pointing up. It needs to be pointing directly at his back. Here. Now I've got it. Okay? So, again, if you're doing this invisible partner, I get to my dope mount, I turn in, here. I plant my elbow, and I turn and face his legs. This is his leg. I should see the back of his top knee here. So I'm gonna put my Achilles tendon in. Okay. Now I'm just gonna walk my hands down toward his leg, and I'm gonna fall. Here. That's the whole movement, right? It looks a lot more complicated when there's two people involved because they're doing kind of weird different things. But once you hit it correctly one time, you're like, okay, it'll make sense the rest of the time. Any issues that stuff I just showed doesn't address?
I'm too low.
You're
So
too
I can
low.
roll through, but every time I roll through, I'm like, your knee was like, the hook, your knee was up here, my knee is like, I'm almost knee to knee. So then when I try to shrimp out, I almost lose the hook.
Can I watch you do it?
No pressure.
All the pressure.
Yeah, Mike. Get him.
And he pushes away.
Yeah, freeze. Rewind. Okay. So right here, drop your right hip to the floor. Yes. Now, slide this down his leg a little bit more like you're trying to break it in. You have to get that little tall bar. Now, bring that to his knee. Yes. Now, start walking your hands down toward his foot, and then fall to that shoulder there, right? That's a little better. Grab that arm and start shrimping away. Go uppercut with your right hand under. Yes. Okay. And you lost him. Okay. So what's happening here is that when you insert that first hook, it's a little fall into the outside of his knee, right? And you need it a little bit more to the back of his chest. Here. So when I open the space, really open this leg a whole lot and get that there, right? Now, if you're here and you're like, that's as far as you can go, it's probably not gonna be good enough. So instead, just leave the foot here. Now, as I go to roll, that leg can come up, right? So I'm gonna try to keep that here this way. If I'm going to grab my leg, that's fine. I can put all the tools to help it on the way, right? And we're gonna grab here, okay? And so like this, as soon as we get to this stage of the roll, this foot, I wanna make it just exaggeratedly high because the bottom hook is gonna be the most important hook when you're on the back, right? So then once we get here, I'm gonna shrimp out. His back's exposed, I got it, okay? So now, another way that we can put one more training wheel on it is I can lock up a full lockdown on this leg first, right? And this, for the longest time, is the only way that I could ever hit this, right? I think, but I call it a training wheel because like the time that it takes sometimes to get here is not worth it, and it gives the guy a little bit more ample time. Now, ways that we can mitigate the time factor is I can grab this leg. Now he's not really going anywhere for a while, right? Because I've got this kind of weird hip lock on him. So now once this is locked up here, now once we start to go, I've got his leg, okay? It's gonna be a lot more control here, right? So if you need to put the figure 4 on it like that, that's perfectly fine, okay? What else? Let's try this a couple more times, then I'm gonna show you a much easier but fancier way to deal with the same position, okay? Let's go 1, 2, 3. Editing process. A lot of the time with these moves, I have to sometimes make 20 steps to accomplish something that later on I want to take 5 steps or less, right? So it's just an editing process. So whenever we're here, now we're gonna talk about kind of some ways that I can threaten his legs, because I think my opinion about leg locks, I think one of the best uses for leg locks is to make his guard easier to pass, right? Well, obviously to break the legs too, but it's his reaction to my threats on his legs a lot of time are gonna make him easier to pass if they don't actually land. So once we get here, we're gonna look at some that are a little different. For example, I think where I wanna start with these. Let's look at this one since we're just in this position where we get to this dope mount, right? Which is what this used to be called. I'm trying to bring it back. So we're here in this dope mount. So a big concern from this position, right, was, well, what if he wing sweeps me, or even worse, what if he wing sweeps me and puts me in the saddle immediately too, and now he's riding on a heel hook that I basically just fed him, right? Well, that's gonna feel pretty dumb. But once we get here and I come across, so that's why this shin staple is initially pretty important, right? But I'm gonna violate that a little bit, right? So you guys might wanna be able to see right here. We're not gonna turn this way. Make sure you can see. So again, this is no gi and whatever the rules of the house and whatever the rules of the competition, yada yada, all that stuff. Aside from that, we're gonna do some stuff here. When I get to this position, right? So we're here. Now I'm gonna let this leg come through like I shouldn't. Okay? And then I'm gonna reach behind my calf and find his knee here. And I'm gonna pick this up to here this way. Okay? So once I get this, look what's happened. His top leg is stuck behind mine, and this leg is in. Now, if I just fall back, essentially he's got a saddle position on me, right? So I've given him the saddle. The problem though is like when I fall back here, my legs are a lot more guarded than his are. His leg is a lot more exposed, right? So this is not a time to sit and let him figure this out. But the way that I'll win this contest here is not to get tempted about this. Because I'll go back here and try to finish this, maybe, but it's gonna be way more effective if I pass this over and go for the short heel that's on the inside this way, okay? So, we get here, I hop through this way, okay? Once I got my position stabilized, this leg is gonna flick out. I'm gonna back step behind his leg here. I pick his knee up, and I'm gonna pinch. As I sit back down, I keep my ankles crossed. Because the first thing he's gonna have to do is he's gonna start having to separate my ankles out. And while he's doing that, I just have to pass his, and it's a pretty easy pass, right? As far as the finishing mechanics on this grip over here, if you just wanna use a regular snuff box grip, just make sure that the toes are nice and high into the armpit. I personally like to grab the heel and hold the heel the entire time and go for like a butterfly grip. This is what I'm saying.
Kids, pay attention to this.
Yeah. You guys just rip these full force next roll, okay? No. When I get here, grabbing the heel, sticking this big toe up in my armpit, pinching my tricep to my lat, and coming over and grabbing the watch face for this butterfly grip here. And then the completion of it is to push his toe to his butt. Okay? And yeah, so let's look at that one more time from this side. I get in on this here, right? I let this leg, this staple comes open, right? I back step toward his top leg is between mine, and I pick his knee up here. Once I pick his knee up, I want to get the pinch before my butt touches the floor. As I sit, and I've got his legs bunched up, I'm gonna sit back to pass across here. When I come up, as I sit up, I'm trying to get his toe, his big toe to my armpit pretty early, pretty soon. I pinch, grab double wrists here, this way, okay? Here's my thing about techniques that you're not allowed to do yet. It's like, you don't want to be the first day that you drove a car the day you go to get your license, right? So if you want to get good enough to pass your driver's exam, you got to practice illegally. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm talking about.
So that by the time, so by the time you're allowed to do it, you're already proficient at it. You know what I mean? So, and it's good to know them even if you're never gonna do heel hooks, leg locks, any of that kind of stuff, because you're gonna have to know how to defend them at some point. And it's just good to have them. So, but obviously be very careful. Listen to all the instructors here, whatever the house rules are. I always like to make that caveat because I don't want to go in and start showing some reckless stuff and people be like, well, I saw it at the seminar that you had the guy come in and teach, so it means I can do it to every white belt in here. No.
Let it rip.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Deck raise,
All right.
knee raise.
Any questions about this, guys? You guys see it? Let's try this one out. 1, 2, 3.
I mean, I feel like
Let's look at this thing. So when we're here, let me address this just because I had this conversation a couple different times in the room. Like when we get to this, when we get into this position, I am putting myself into ostensibly a fairly dangerous position by putting myself into the saddle because my leg is exposed. When I go to hook though, that's why. So number one, I want to get this pinch nice and tight while I'm still in this up position here, right? And then when I go to sit back, then I'm looking to pass that across. So the things that give me somewhat of an advantage in this position is that I have a cover from my leg, so he doesn't have full exposure right away. Because as soon as I sit down, I'm covered and I'm pinched in. My leg here is a little bit more neutral. It's a little bit structurally better. And whenever I pass his, it's a lot more bent, right? And it's exposed for the inside heel hook pretty right away. So I've got a little bit longer of a time to play with this. And he's gonna have to separate my feet before he can really attack, right? So those are some of the preventative measures to try to help mitigate the fact that this is a bit of a shootout, right? And I'm initiating it too. And like when you initiate a position that somebody can counter from that position, they can choose to counter or they can choose to defend. But if they choose to counter, that means they're gonna have to be twice as fast as you because you initiated the position, right? So for those reasons, it's that's why I feel like it's not as dangerous as it looks, even though it is dangerous. Let's talk about briefly here, because I don't know when we're switching over to the gi, but let's do one more thing, because I definitely want to get this one. When we get here, if I was a little lazy, a little light, a little sloppy, or he was just a little faster and got to maybe some kind of a De La Hiva from here. So he gets this De La Hiva, right? When we're here in the De La Hiva here like this, oftentimes if he's got the inside De La Hiva hook, then this one's gonna be somewhat of a pusher, right? He's gonna be looking to push or something, so this one's gonna be coming out. So the one I wanna look out for this here is I wanna keep pressured in on this leg, and I want to back step until I get my quad to the outside of his calf here, and have a little squat like this. So what I did was I tried to get his De La Hiva hook protruding past to my far pocket over here to my hip this way, okay? The way I initially learned this one a long time ago was like you drape your arm in, you tuck your head and you roll, and then you wind up with this kind of like calf sandwich thing, calf slicer hamstring thing. Then I found this one, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot more direct. So from here, this leg's typically gonna be floating. I'm just gonna open the space. I'm gonna tuck my head underneath it. I wanna hug his leg here this way, and I wanna fall to my side. Okay? Yeah. So I'm gonna keep hugging here on his thigh, and I wanna press my knee this way. Okay? If you get here and he just has no respect for your ham sandwich at all, right? The cool thing about it is that I can bring this arm underneath and come up on a leg drag, right? So it'd be nice to hit the ham sandwich though, right? So if we get here, I'm back stepping, I'm pulling this in a little bit to get this protruding past to my far hip. My shin is in the back of his hamstring, right? Which makes the ham sandwich. And then I open the space, dive my head toward the floor, and I connect my two hands. At this point, I'm gonna fall to my hip here this way, okay? His foot will generally go to the floor, and I'm gonna keep hugging his thigh and his hip on this side, right? And then from here, now I'm gonna press my knee this direction by expanding my hips toward him here. It's pretty painful, okay? If he's like, I'm not tapping to a ham sandwich, that's too embarrassing, then I can still come around here, come up, and I'm in on my leg drag pass, okay? Does this make sense? All right, let's try this out, guys. 1, 2, 3. Normal passing, like that floating over the top kind of thing. We went to mount, or we went to knee ride off of that. Next thing that we looked at was kind of blending together some of the concepts of like, if I can't get that pummel across, I'm gonna just go back to my knee cut. And you can kind of like exchange those back and forth. My knee cut's failing, I'm gonna center him back up, try for the pummel again, it's not working, go back to the knee cut. And just keep throwing so many different combinations of different things to the person. It's just overload. So they can't really digest exactly what kind of pass they need to prevent the most. And so then we started looking at cutting through on the pass, right? And we wound up in that kind of, I always call it dope mount. So where your leg is coming through, pinning, and we looked at taking the back off of that with that weird roll thing. Then we also looked at putting yourself into that kind of saddle counter thing, where we're feeding through and thread through with a heel hook on it. And the last thing we looked at is a sit-down ham sandwich and possible pass opportunity that it creates too, right? Did I miss anything? Okay. Let's go put on the murder pajamas and come back, all right? And now